Welcome, everybody, to Agent Investor. I'm your host, Tom Caffarella, and we're back with another episode, another way that we can help real estate agents achieve financial freedom through real estate sales and investing. And today is something that I probably don't talk enough about, which is motivation. And at the end of the day, it's not enough to know what we need to do, it's about doing it. And while doing it might be simple, the steps might be simple, we've got to be motivated over the long haul on a day to day basis in order to achieve massive results. When I say massive results, I'm not talking about selling a house or two here and there. I'm not talking about just selling real estate to pay your bills. I'm talking about achieving financial freedom. I'm talking about having enough passive income coming in on a monthly basis that you don't need to work if you don't want to. Having enough income coming in each and every year so that you can save big chunks of income. You don't have to worry about budgeting every single month. You don't have to worry about whether or not you're going out to dinner. I'm talking about achieving financial success. Okay. And the important part of that is the expectation that you need to have in order to stay motivated. So I'm going to talk today about 8 different things, 8 ways to stay motivated over the long haul. Because like I said a second ago, you're going to need to be, if you really want to achieve big financial success in real estate sales and investing, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a 90-day challenge. It's not a 6-month challenge. It's not a year challenge. It's how do you stay motivated for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row, right? Not necessarily going 100% every single day, but how do you give and stay motivated to give a good quality effort most days over the course of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the amount of time that it's probably going to take you to achieve your goals. All right, so I'm going to jump right into it. 8 ways to stay motivated over the long haul in order to achieve financial freedom. All right, number 1 is having the proper expectations. This is something that if you have a coach, if you have a friend who's achieved a lot of financial success, if you have a colleague that's achieved financial freedom, you want to talk about what you want to do and what that actually looks like, both in time, both in day to day, both what your expectations should be in terms of what might go right, what might go wrong, how many hours you might need to work, how many years you might need to work, etc. Because one thing I find with a lot of people, myself included, is we all want instantaneous results. We all want to get results fairly quickly. And many of us don't have the expectation. And unfortunately, there are many people, especially in the real estate industry, that will pitch and talk about getting results. They're going to be a lot faster than what reality is. Like there's a reason I mentioned 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. If you want to achieve something really, really big, it's going to take a little bit of time. I know that probably sounds simple and it may not be shocking to a lot of people, but I do find that a lot of people fall off the motivation wagon because they haven't achieved anything big in a short period of time. So you really want to set the proper expectations. And again, how do you know what the proper expectation should be if you've never done it? Make sure you get a coach or make sure you get around somebody else who has done this. For those of you who want to learn a little bit more about what we do and how we help people with that, jump on our next call at www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. Jump on that call. It's a live call. We can actually talk about what your goals are. We can talk about the expectations that you need to have. And everybody's a little bit different there. All right. So that's step number 1. One way to stay motivated over the long haul is to make sure that you're setting proper expectations. Number 2, avoiding looking at everybody else, especially on social media. Of course, we all kind of know this, but I'm going to state an obvious fact that most of what people are posting online is kind of like a front It's kind of like what they want people to think about them. It's what they want people they want to appear either more successful or happier or whatever. So the issue there is that in many cases, it doesn't just have to be online, it can be in person. You have to understand a few things. Number one, like a gambler, right? They're only going to share with you their wins. It's the same way in business. Most people aren't sharing, their losses and their struggles and whatever. Most of the things that are put online that are shared are, like somebody's best day, or it's their best achievement, or it's something that they had, some level of success with. So just know that. Just know that for every post that you see of something that, happened that was really big, that person probably had to go through some stuff, in order to make sure that in order to achieve that big thing. The second thing is that different people are going to get different results at different stages. So I have a seller team that many of you know about, where we give away on average 1 to 2 seller appointments per week. Like every single week, somebody who's on my seller team is going on 1 or 2 face-to-face seller appointments a week. And we track everybody's conversion ratios. Like if I give you 10 appointments, how many of them did you get signed? And what we always know, and we know this to be true, is that everyone's going to have a little bit different of a conversion ratio, and everyone is going to have a different length of period of time in order to become successful at doing that one activity. Why is that? Like, why could somebody, never mind my seller team, but why could it take somebody 2 years to do what somebody else took 5 years to do? Well, the reality is there's a lot of variables. Luck is one of them. Keep that in mind. Luck is one of them. And focusing on my seller team for a second, if I give one person 10, I could give one person, 5 really good appointments and maybe 5 really bad appointments. I could give another person maybe 8 really good appointments and 2 really bad appointments. So there's always luck of the draw with some of the stuff. But the other component here is just that when we all decide, hey, I want to make big change in my life, I want to become financially free, I want to achieve whatever, we all start from a different place. We all had a different background. Some of us went to college, some of us didn't. Some of us have owned businesses before, some of us haven't. Some of us have a big net worth when we start, or we have a lot of great contacts when we start. So we're all kind of starting from different places. So it's really important that you don't compare yourself. You don't look to the left and you don't look to the right and say, geez, I started at the same time as this person, but I'm further behind. Therefore, I'm never going to have success. It's going to take us all a little bit different amount of time than somebody else, right? So just keep that in mind. It's not to say that you can't look to the left and look to the right and ask those people some questions. Hey, man, like I'm struggling doing something that you seem to do so easily. Like, can you give me some pointers? That's cool. But what you don't want to have is a mental change or a mental shift where you're like, well, I can't do it. It's easy for that person. All right. Step number 3, or way number 3 to stay motivated over the long haul to achieve financial freedom, is to make sure you're setting and monitoring and tracking your goals. I've talked about this in other episodes, where if you're not looking at your numbers every single week to know whether or not you're hitting your goal or you're not going to hit your goal 9 times out of 10. Looking at your goals every single week and looking at your numbers every single week is going to not only provide accountability, but it's also going to let you know, hey, like, I don't know, I don't feel super motivated today, but I just looked at my numbers and I'm hitting my numbers. So what you should be doing is you should be setting long-term goals, you should be setting short-term goals, and then you should have weekly numbers that you look at every single week to make sure that you're on track. What does that actually look like? It means that every single week you should be tracking and looking at your biggest drivers of your business. For my team, who's trying to buy a bunch of properties every single week, every single week, for example, we're looking at our seller appointments. As an example, like if my team isn't going on between 100 and 120 seller appointments a week, then I know we're not going to hit our quarterly goal. Therefore, if we're not hitting our quarterly goal, we're not going to hit our yearly goal. If we don't hit our yearly goal, guess what? We're probably not going to hit our long-term goal. So you need to have a scorecard that you look at every single week. It doesn't need to be complicated. You just want to make sure that you're tracking the metrics that are going to give you the results that you want over the long haul. Again, this is something that I talk about on my weekly call. If you want some individualized help with that, make sure you jump on my next call at www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. And we can talk again specifically about your goals, what they look like, how to set long-term goals, yearly goals, quarterly goals, and have a weekly scorecard. Okay. So again, we're talking about how to stay motivated over the long haul. The important part of the scorecard is that you're getting feedback every single week. Either I'm on track and therefore I should get a burst of motivation, like, yes, I'm on track, even though I'm not necessarily getting the long-term result I want. Because if we think about it, the long-term result that we want is a life-changing thing. And this is kind of, I think, what can be a little bit demotivating about the process is if we have a long-term goal and the goal is, for us to have financial freedom, a big change in our life, a big change in what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it's going to take 3, 4, 5, 6 years. For those first, 1, 2, 3 years, your life, how it feels, might not really be that much different. In fact, in the beginning, you might actually have to put in a little bit more work, right? So if you're focused on that life-changing thing, like if I'm focused and saying, hey, I want to be able to take off a full month, go on vacation, not have to worry about the bills. If that's my goal, and 3 months in, I'm hitting all my numbers, but I'm still not financially there because it takes longer to get to that point, I might get a little frustrated. I might get a little bit demotivated. But that's why you've got to be looking at your numbers every single week. And you've got to have a clearly defined plan of how long this is all going to take, right? Making small incremental progress every single day is the way to hit big long-term results. But we have to know that we're getting that little progress every day. Therefore, we need to be tracking our numbers on a weekly basis. All right, number 4, how to stay motivated for the long haul. Number 4, get around other people that are having the success that you want. It is really important that you find mentors and or peers. It doesn't have to be a mentor per se. It could be a peer. It's got to be somebody that's doing stuff that you're doing, but hopefully at a higher level. Because part of staying motivated is knowing that it's possible. I find that there are many people, and myself included when I started, like I grew up without a bunch of money, didn't know many people who had any sort of business success. Part of you is like, if I put in the effort, I better get a result. But in the back of your mind, you're really not even confident that that can even happen. Like maybe you don't fully believe that either it's possible or that you can do it. When you get around other people that are doing it and they're doing it at a higher level than you, you start to realize that it's not as complicated. It can happen. And you'll get motivated just by being around other people that are doing it at a higher level. And number 5, which is kind of a piggyback off of that, is to make sure you're in the right peer group. Now, there's a saying that if you follow me, you've probably heard before, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. It's a very true statement, but I want to clarify, what I mean by that. I don't mean that you ditch your best friend. I don't mean that, you don't talk to somebody in your family anymore. What I mean is that you elevate your peer group. When I say elevate, I don't mean that the people that are in your peer group are bad people. I mean, you elevate them in terms of the results that you're looking for. So you start to get around and you network and you talk to and you become friends with people who are on the same mission as you. If you're surrounded by people that are on the same mission as you, you're going to start to hear different things. Like on the day that you don't feel like doing the work that you know that you need to do to get long-term results, you might say something like, man, I don't know if this is ever going to work. I'm not getting the results I want. And the right type of peer is going to talk you back into doing that work. The right type of peer is going to explain to you or help you get remotivated that, hey, you're doing the right things. You just need to keep doing them. Whereas the wrong peer is going to say, hey, listen, what are you doing? That's a scam. That's a waste of time. You shouldn't be spending your time on that. It'll never work. I heard it all the time. I used to run in-person seminars every month, and I'd have 50 or 60 people that would be in the room, and I'd get somebody inevitably in every single one of them that would be super motivated. And they'd be with a friend, or they'd be with a spouse, or they'd be with a family member. I'd hear the family member like outwardly say, like, this is a scam. This will never work. You can't invest with no money. They'd have all the reasons in the world to kind of like not do this. And again, to be very clear, when I say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with, I'm not saying get rid of those people. Those are your friends. Those are your family members. They care about you, whatever. But start to get around other people that are on the same mission. It's why I created the brand Agent Investor. It's why I have networking events. It's why I have my inner circle that people can get into for free. If you want to learn about how to get around other people that are doing what you want to do, peers, go to www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. Talk a little bit about getting in our inner circle for free to get around other people that are on the same mission. Okay. All right. Again, we're talking about 8 ways to stay motivated for the long haul. Number 6, again, another simple one, but find out what motivates you and do more of it. Right. I know for me, like going to the gym, listening to music, like watching a motivational movie, like I love Rocky. I love stuff like that, like something to get you like fired up, something to get you in the mood, something to clear your mind, something to like a story that's going to get you motivated. Like I love listening to like 10-minute YouTube videos on like motivational speeches or even like locker room stuff that gets me pumped up. Whatever that is for you, when you're not feeling motivated, like take the time to do that, right? You're better off taking 10 or 15 or 20 minutes to listen to a YouTube video or listening to music or to go to the gym. It could be different for every person. I don't care what it is. Find a way to get into the proper headspace on a day-to-day basis. A lot of this stuff is all about mindset. It's interesting because I always say this, like, when we really think about like what we are as humans and what we're capable of doing, and we go back, thousands and thousands of years, we'd have to wake up thousands and thousands of years ago. We didn't have any food in front of us. We had to go out. We had to go get the food. We had to live outdoors. We can go through a lot. Like the human is capable. A human is capable of doing really, really, really hard stuff. And in most cases, when it comes to building and getting financially free, most of the stuff that we need to do is not even in the same vicinity of difficulty as what I just said. So we're all capable of doing it, but we've got to find a way to get motivated to do it on a day-to-day basis. The day-to-day basis part is really important. It's really important, like I mentioned earlier, to make a little bit of progress every day, even if it's nothing huge. Make that little bit of progress every day. In order to do that, things get stale. We get burnt out. We have bad things that happen to us. As humans, we're capable of a lot, but also as humans, we're capable of having stuff get in the way. You have a bad day, you got to bounce back. Whatever it is, you have to make sure that as much as possible, you are in a positive, productive, high energy state. Okay. All right. Number 7, ways to stay motivated over the long haul. Talk about this one a lot too. Eat That Frog. It's a book. And the summary of the book is that if you have to eat a frog every single day, you have to literally eat a live frog every single day, the best time to do it is first thing in the morning. Why do you want to do it first thing in the morning? Well, if you know you've got to do something difficult every single day, The worst thing that you can do is procrastinate, because if you procrastinate, you're going to spend most of your time thinking about doing this thing, procrastinating doing this thing, not getting anything else done. And conversely, when you eat that frog first thing in the morning, when you do your hardest tasks first thing in the morning, you get motivated, you get energized. You're like, oh man, I can take on the world today. So how does that, translate into, 2025 and beyond, and what we should be thinking about? Well, first and foremost, like first thing in the morning, there are things you don't want to do, right? Some of those things include checking your email, answering text messages, watching videos, like stuff that can kind of like bog you down. What you want to focus on, especially first thing in the morning, is stuff that's high impact, that is going to move the needle in your business. I'm sure most of you have heard of Pareto's principle, but it's something in biology that has been kind of like, it's a scientific thing that in general, 20% of all of your activities produce 80% of your results. So when you're analyzing your business and what you're trying to do, you want to figure out like, what are those high impact activities that really move the needle in my business? And how do I do more of them? And more importantly, how do I do them every day, first thing in the morning, so that they're done? For all of us, that can be different, right? So it depends. This is where having a good coach, having a good mentor comes in, because what I can't tell anybody that's listening to this right now without having an individual conversation is, what's that 20% for you? Is it raising capital? Is it getting a seller appointment? Is it making phone calls? Is it, finding a deal? Whatever it is, it's going to be a little bit different for all of us. But ultimately, at the end of the day, once we kind of know what that 20% thing is that produces 80% of the results, then you've got to do it, and you've got to do it first thing in the morning. Now, I know that is an imperfect thing. I know we all have lives. We all have different things. It doesn't always necessarily always have to be like the absolute first thing that we do. But the more that we can prioritize it towards the top of the day and get it done as soon as we can, the better results we're going to get. And therefore, the more motivated we're going to get, right? So let's just say that you have a goal every day of setting a seller appointment, or getting a seller appointment, or connecting with 10 agents to find a deal, or whatever. And you get that result by 10 o'clock. Like, geez, I wanted to set one appointment today. It's only 10 o'clock and I've already done that, right? That's going to give you a burst of momentum to maybe try to get 2 in a day, or whatever it is. All right. And the last thing, number 8, ways to stay motivated over the long haul. And this is a huge one. This maybe should have been the first one, which is stop doing the stuff that you're doing that doesn't work, and commit to making the changes that you know you need to make. There is nothing more demotivating than consistently wanting to better yourself without making any changes and automatically guaranteeing that you're not going to get any success. I'm going to say that again because that was a little bit long, but there's nothing more demotivating than consistently every 6 months, every year, say, this is it, I'm going to do it. And then you make no changes, or you make minimal changes, or you make the wrong changes. And then you're there 6 months later again. Hey, this is going to be the time. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to finally do this. So when it comes to making changes, again, first and foremost, you got to know what changes you need to make, right? That's why I encourage everybody who's listening to this to jump on my call at www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. And you can hear about like what your day-to-day might actually look like. We can talk directly about actually what you should be doing to get results. Because if you're going to make a change and you're going to start doing things a little bit different than how you used to do them, you want to make sure that the new activities and the new behavior that you're doing is actually going to get you results. I see this all the time where somebody tells me their plan and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Hey, I'm doing this new thing to get these appointments. I'm doing these new things to raise capital. And I'm like, dude, that's not going to work. I know it's not going to work. I've tried to do it. It doesn't work. But once you actually know what to do on a day-to-day basis, commit to doing it and commit to doing it over the long haul. Like at least give it a quarter and get feedback from somebody else on whether or not you're actually on track, which goes back to setting the goals and looking at your numbers every single month. So if you're on the call and you've listened to more than one of my podcasts, you've jumped on my calls, you like the messaging, hey, the agent investor model, which is sell real estate for a living, find fix and flip deals for big chunks of income, and then to invest passively, and you haven't done that yet, you've got to commit to making a change. One of those changes that we always talk about is joining our Inner Circle program, getting around other people that are doing it, get one-on-one mentorship from me and other people that are in my group. You can do that by going to www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. And I talk to agents about this pretty regularly, that they always talk about wanting to follow the agent investor model. They always talk about like wanting to invest, but then their actions show that it's not their top priority. I always ask people, simple question. And I mean this, I'm a broker owner. I've got over 400 agents in my brokerage. And I always say to people, like, what is your most important priority right now? Is it to sell a couple of houses? Is it to do something different, or is it to invest? Because if you tell me that your priority is to invest, you're not taking the steps necessary in order to do it. Everything that you're doing is showing me that you're an agent that just wants to sell a couple extra houses a year. So you've got to figure out what your priorities are, because guess what? We all only have a limited amount of time every single day, right? When you think about how many hours we might have in a day to work, 8 to 10, and then when you think about all the interruptions and stuff that we deal with, there's not a huge amount of time on a day-to-day basis to actually do what we need to do. So we've got to be really focused and prioritize what actually is important. The thing I love about the agent investor model in general is that the priorities are directly in line with you actually growing your agent business. It's to focus on growing your seller appointments, to get on more seller appointments, to have a lead stream where you're going to have the opportunity on a day-to-day basis to either list houses or flip them. That's going to grow your listing business. It's going to get you some flips that you could potentially partner with us on, or you could do the flips on your own. That's then going to get you the big chunks of income, the $80,000 plus. That's the average partner split that we do. That's going to get you 40 grand. You do a couple of those in a year. Now you have a down payment for a long-term asset that's going to pay you forever. And as ranks increase, you're going to get a raise every single year. So that's kind of like what's at stake. And again, I fully understand. Trust me when I tell you, it is hard to stay motivated over the long haul because this stuff does take some time. This is not a quick Band-Aid. It's not a quick, geez, like you're going to go through real estate school and maybe next month you get excited and you get a listing or you get a buyer. Achieving financial freedom is not a year-long thing. It's not a 2-year thing. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Could be a little bit longer depending on what your goals are and what actions you take. But again, listen and think about the 8 ways to stay motivated on a day-to-day basis, and then start to put that stuff into action. I hope to have the opportunity to talk to some of you directly on my weekly call. I know I've plugged it a few times. It's www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com. On the call, we're going to talk about the agent investor model. I'm going to show you guys how you can generate your own seller opportunities. I'm going to talk about my partner program, where I put up all the money, do the construction, and split the profits with the agents 50-50. I'm also going to talk about my seller team and how you can actually get 1 or 2 seller appointments a week from my team that we book. So if you're interested, if you like what I had to say today, jump on my next call at www.partnerwithagentinvestor.com.